Welcome, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Straight Outta BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari. I am Rudy Looters,
Jamari Jones, everybody.
and we have a special guest in the building.
Hey, my name is Patrick. Nice to meet you guys.
All right. Patrick is our intern from Boston Green Academy, as we mentioned in the last episode. And Patrick's been working with us since the last week of April till the last week of May. It's been a pleasure working with him, and we get to know him and so how you guys doing? How you doing, Jamar?
Man, oh man. Can I be honest?
Let's be honest. Let's do this.
I am burnt out, bro.
Burned out.
It's close to the end of the year, very close. We're in May. June, we don't get out until June 28th, my school.
Wow.
So Desi got us. Desi got us. Meaning that, we got booked for a couple of days that we missed on the school year. It wasn't even our fault. So they extended the year to the 28th.
And that's just for your school.
I think so, yeah. So
everybody's out chilling. Yeah.
So I'm just like mentally exhausted. I'm ready for a break. But overall, I'm doing well.
You just came from a break. You need another break?
Yes, that's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm doing well. No complaints. Just tired.
Yeah.
What about you, Patrick? How you doing?
Me, things are going pretty good as of right now. I'm just really excited for prom and this internship. It's a very new experience for me. I'm a very talkative person, and being on a podcast is really helping me because I want to make my own in the future. So I think this is a very good experience to have.
All right. Yeah, so be on the lookout for Patrick's podcast in the future.
So Rudy, what about you, brother?
What about me? I am good. I am feeling a lot of energy, I am happy because I got COVID again, and this time around I was ready. I was ready, and yeah, so I'm feeling energy, being consistent in my routine. I'm happy the more I stay consistent in my routine, it makes me feel more energetic and being present to the stuff I want to do, and not I definitely feel a little bit overwhelmed because one, I went on vacation in the woods, got COVID, and I had to work from home for a week, and then it's May, and then graduation is soon. We have a lot of event, classes almost over.
Yeah,
so much to plan, and it just the thing. I have a list, a to-do list, and then and I like when I check off thing, and then I'm like, oh shoot, this is, I still have more. So I'm trying to be okay with, you got a lot done today. And you get a lot done tomorrow.
Right.
I'm just looking at the whole overall, things I have to do before the end of the year. So just being present and so I can be consistent and just enjoy life and not let those tasks burden me. But overall, somebody told me two can be the same, so I can be feeling overwhelmed and energetic at the same time because it's from two different things. But it's gonna get done. I am excited to end the year. So
dope. I can totally relate to that 100%. But like you said, it's gonna get done.
Yeah.
So to go into our episode first, before we go into our episode, just wanted to say thank you everyone who continue to listen and support Straight Outta BPS. We appreciate you. Please continue to follow, or if you have not followed, follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We are on all social media platforms, as well as give us a listen on we're on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, even Spotify. So you can listen. There's no excuse.
We can't wait for us to be on your top 5 and Spotify at the end of the year.
So, make sure you share it with a friend. Make sure you play it in your classrooms. Make sure you share us on everything you have. We really appreciate it. As you know, we are continuing to plan to do great things. And so we're trying to do some big things over here. So I appreciate you. So moving on, we are going to be getting into our views on the latest news. As you guys know, this is the part of the segment where we talk about what's happening in our community or within BPS. And then we kind of give our intake or outlook on what's going on. So the first thing we have on the agenda, fellas, is the Mission Hill K-8 school is going to be closing. I think we got word maybe about a week ago, and I texted Rudy, and we were talking about it, how, the Mission Hill K-8 school was going to be closing, and what does that mean, and what happened? And so I guess last year there was some misconduct, as sexual allegations that were filed against the school. But the superintendent opened up the investigation where I guess someone was hired to investigate what was going on. So it was allowed for the school to be continue to be open through this year until the investigation was finished. And I guess after the investigation was finished, the superintendent asked for the school committee to vote on the school being closed, and that vote went through. But before we give our opinions, I just wanted to go through kind of what I found in the article. And so one of the things that the article talked about was that there was multiple complaints from parents and Mission Hill officials, that Mission Hill officials were ignoring their concerns about bullying incidents, and separately allegations by 5 families that one student had reported repeatedly sexually abused their children. They learned of even more allegations of bullying and sexual misconduct at the school, as well as additional examples of officials' lax response to such reports. So you can see that there's like layers and layers and layers, I think, of stuff that this is just what we know about, right? And then also in the article, it stated that there were multiple students that had, disabilities or special education needs that weren't being filled in the school. So there was something to that fact, and that the school culture, it said that the school culture, there wasn't any. It was like every teacher was putting their selves first instead of putting the students first.
Wow.
So that leads to me saying, one, this is just one school that we know about, right? Like, are there others? And, what do we do as a school, as BPS, as families? This is going to be affecting, kids and everything like that. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts about what's going on with Mission Hill, and what effects do you think that's going to have on different K-8 schools in the area?
Well, I'd like to make a connection there, speaking on Mission Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I do know another school that has similar backlash. The Timothy, about 2 years ago, there was an incident with Dean, and they handled the situation, but the school is still open. That goes to show you that Mission Hill could have been handled very differently, because just because you shut a school down, that doesn't stop other schools and people within those schools to continue doing those heinous acts within other school districts. It's not about the school being shut down. That's not going to really affect anything. It's seeing and rooting out the problem itself.
Mm.
Because you can shut a school down, but you can't stop the same kids are going to go to different schools. Those teachers are going to go to different schools. You have to stop the problem at the root. You're not shutting down the school is not going to really change anything. That's why I think it could have been handled differently, because Mission Hill is still a school at hand, but like it could have been, the approach could have been different.
Yeah, yeah, that was good. Like the connection you make with the other school. I think one thing I've heard is that the people who were involved, there'll be some kind of like accountability, like some things against them, but the people who were not involved, they will be supported in finding new job within BPS. And you're right, Mission Hill is not the only school this happened. I don't know what other school, but we have heard things happening at another school you mentioned. And the thing, so my thing in this process, and then like closing the school, well, BPS is going on thing closing a bunch of school right now, especially merging middle school and high school. They're going towards that system right now. So like I was just surprised, like because in the long term, I think for a long term for now, I feel like the system in BPS would be uh the middle school and high school would be together. So
Yeah.
I was not surprised about that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, closing the school, a lot of family gonna have to move and find other school. And one, you could say that, well, they will have to do that anyway after middle school.
Yeah.
Like, so but I do understand like changing environment, it's difficult. What I don't get is that the people who subscribe to those things, to
Mm-hmm.
this behavior, like those, like like sexual misconduct, bullying, this thing, like I thought we were all in this to help the next generation, to support the next generation. And when I hear those situations, I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like it baffled me, because especially when you hear BPS as a whole, Boston Public School is way better than some other and public school and other, like like it's one of the, way better than others. So if this is way better,
Yeah.
like it makes me feel about what the other ones.
Yeah.
I do feel like, so when I hear is like accountability, like like as a staff, as a system, we need more accountability, because did they say what prompted their investigation?
So there were so many complaints
Yeah.
from parents and students, and I think that prompted the investigation, as well as I really think, and I didn't see this in the article, but I really think the sexual misconduct probably prompted the investigation.
Yeah.
And then as they started to look into everything else, like it just spiraled. But the thing about what you said, Rudy, was like, how did we get here? I think it's not easy, but sometimes we function in chaos so well, like we get used to it.
Yes.
And then it's like, holy crap, like this is like chaos, you know what I mean? And I think that's what, and I hate to say it, that's what kind of BPS has turned to for some schools, is just like functioning in chaos and not really recognizing, this is not right. Even though no matter what, I want to make that clear, like a student and teacher relationship, like is never right. Or like a student touching another student inappropriate, like that's never right. But it's kind of like, sometimes districts or schools continue function in chaos so long that it's like it's deemed as normal, and that's sick.
Well, I want to also touch in the where, like, because you said something so powerful, like we function well in chaos, and because that's all we know. But let's also talk about the mental health aspect of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like those kids in middle school, like how this gonna, like the
How do you have that conversation?
How do you have that conversation? And also, I am gonna go there, but also it's also something like, like how do we get there? The mental health support for staff. But we don't get there. Like,
good point.
It baffles me, like, and it pains me because the reason why I am an educator is because some of the challenge I went through, I found passion in getting the new generation ready. Should they have enough resources, information, they can act upon on, so they can have a better future.
Right.
Like, I find joy in that.
Yeah.
So I cannot say I find joy in that and also do things. I trauma, like it,
On top of that.
on top of that, and it just baffles me. That's what I'm like, as we talking about mental health support for student, like helping them dealing with that, but also like, mental health stuff, because whoever did that, they need some help. They need some help. Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. I just hope that, we can learn from this. And then like we can also implement checks and balances in schools concerning the district. And I know the district is not perfect, but to kind of protect our kids, there has to be a change. There has to be something done to make sure that we're having less articles or like news stories or problems like this in schools. So yeah, I hope everything works out. I hope kids get the help they need, and adults find other work within the district, because we need that, and they need that, like you said. The other article that we've been talking about for a long time, and I think it's very important to bring up, is the receivership. And I think, Rudy, you sent me this article. It was definitely an interesting take on receivership, where in the name of the article is, where is the track record for receivership? So it's kind of pushing back on the aspect of is receivership really right? And then looking at the government, like, where's your track record of saying that receivership works? So everyone's kind of, and I'm guilty of this too, because at first when things were going so horrible from my perspective in BPS, and I was just like, yo, I'm all down for receivership, let's go, like, you know what I mean? But then after, getting over that hump, right, and then kind of looking at what's happening, and then looking at this article too, it's like, is receivership really the right path. And the article kind of breaks down, it talks about Lawrence in Massachusetts, how they were taken over by receivership because of how bad they were doing. And then Lawrence is still at the low percentage wise of schools that are successful. And then the article kind of goes in as well to saying, like, for low income like communities, receivership doesn't work. And the data kind of shows that. And part of that is part of the reason why is there's so much turnover in teachers, right? Yeah. There's no consistency. So teachers have to reapply for their jobs every year. So if a teacher's already having a hard time going into a turnaround school or district, is less likely they're going to stay and go through that hardship again. They're going to look for a new job every year. And so in my perspective, I think that, within receivership, right, that there needs to be, we need veteran teachers that are going to work with our students to bring and lift them up. But with receivership, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. And so yeah, so the thing is, I want to have the conversation of like, what are y'all thoughts on receivership? And I think it's more so than like, I think it's more so like, what does it look like in Black and brown communities? Ooh. Because is receivership happening in white communities? And I would love to see what receiver looks like in white communities versus low income Black and brown communities. And I think I'm willing to bet money that there is a big difference in the outcome if both school districts with highly populated white people had receivership versus Black and brown communities. Yeah. And that's just something that I was thinking about. So I would love to hear your take on that.
For me, receivership from the articles that I read has not been affecting us in the way that we thought, because most articles that I read, everybody was pushing for it until they seen the byproduct of what happened. Mm-hmm. And I really don't think it's like, what can the government do that BPS isn't already doing, and how could the government change anything? Because I was looking at differences of how parents were talking about how there was no change and how it was just making it worse. It was really driving the families away from schools. I read it about an article in Lawrence.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I think the reason why you stated, I like this article. You said, like, is the title big? Like, where's the track record? Like, if you believe, if you so hone in something, oh, this work, where's the track record? Because obviously, BPS wouldn't be the first receivership you've done, but how can you prove what you've done in the past? Like, I've worked. 1, 2. The whole reason of receivership is because testing score. But how do you measure testing score? How do you expect? How do you measure testing score when the financial resources are not the same in every district? The access are not the same in every district. I don't know. It baffled me because we just voted. The people just voted to have an elected school committee. We have a new mayor who have a brand new vision. Obviously, we're gonna have a new superintendent. Like, But I am hoping and I am believing that the next person, having gone through so many superintendent over the years, like one, like how do you make that position build that position in a way that people will want to be in that position, but also like the support that we need to offer the person in that position, because it's gonna take all of us to make it right.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need a receivership now.
Right.
I don't think we need a receivership ever,
Yeah.
because gone are the days when people weren't paying attention. Like, we are paying attention now.
Yeah.
And and we want to make BPS better, and we don't want
Right.
this to come in. And I think like in the article it says it made sense for them to go to receivership because the superintendent on one of the district, was it like Lawrence or Holyoke, they were in fraud. They got like, it made sense because you had a corrupted superintendent who was charged, indicted for fraud.
Right.
Like, so it was this very different. We not there yet. Well, now I'm not gonna say we're not there. I'm not gonna call this upon us. We will
Yeah.
not be there.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing. And if we continue to use MCAS as a measure for low income neighborhood and affluent neighborhood,
Yeah.
like testing score it's not fair.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's something that you sparked my just my thought when you said that. I'm all like, receivership should take in more consideration when they take over a school of like, is attendance increasing? Are students' mental health like status increasing? Do they like being at school? Are teachers coming to work and less call outs? Like, those are some of the things that receivership should be
not taking
working
money
for.
out of the budget.
Yeah, not taking money out of the budget. Like, those are some of the things that, receivership should be helping schools with. It shouldn't be a takeover, it should be a partnership.
Whew. Say that again.
That's what it should be about. And I think that when we just relinquish our control over to the government, there's no more partnership. It's just like what I say goes, and that's where the problem starts, because they are not working with our kids on the day-to-day. It should be more of a partnership. So that's what, when you said that, I was all like, yo, that just sparked like something in me to think about that. I'm all like, how come it's not a partnership?
Yeah.
How come it's not, working hand to hand and trying to work together on this instead of just a takeover, and this is what we need to do to raise our test scores? But that's only looking at a school or a student or a district in one light.
Yeah.
There's so much more to students, to schools, to communities than just test scores, like you said.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we will stay away from receivership, and that we can work together as BPS community or a school system to better our schools overall. I think once we hire a new superintendent, that will really kind of set the tone for like, what it is BPS really listening to the community? Is like City Hall, Mayor Wu really listening to the community? Like, we need to see someone that's from Boston, being the superintendent, that's of color, being a superintendent and making changes.
I'm gonna say that last part.
Yeah.
We need accountability across the board.
100%.
Accountability across the parents, student, staff, teachers, everyone, everyone, like, like political official, like, mayor, the city council, like the superintendent, accountability across the board. Like, we need to invest and make sure we are holding each other accountable, and then we are working towards a better BPS. Point blank. All right. We're gonna stop right here, and then we'll come back real quick for our next segment. You are listening to the Straight Outta BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari. Welcome back, everyone. It is May, as you know, and May 1st is Decision Day. This is the national day where seniors are making decisions about what their post-secondary plan are. This is always like a difficult time, and especially for me, this is the time where they call me the dream crusher, because I'm really keen on making sure our student go to if they go into college, I want to make sure they are going with the they are I want to make sure they know their options so they can make a financially fit decision. Sometimes the school they want to go to may not give them the best financial aid. Yep. And we don't want to take them to take a lot of loan to get that degree, and then on the back come out and have to pay it. So it is really important. Most of our school go to college with a gap. So they have to take a job and to pay that gap while in college. And I know they all are, they want a full experience.
Right.
The full college experience and leaving on campus. But as I said before, the goal is not to go to college to work or to the Army, Navy, Marines. The goal is for you to be financially free to build generational wealth. That's the goal. And what path you choose to get there is up to you and what you want. So we really want to make sure our student understand that this in their family. So which got me thinking, there's a lot of myth and misconception about education as a whole in terms of like schooling versus long-term learning, right? Here's some of the myth, let me like about homework. More homeworks means more learning, more money being better school. School alone cannot achieve the achievement gap. To teachers are surely responsible for learning. College is the only way out. It's not always academic. Everything is subjective. Yeah. So if we look, so where I want to go with this is we hear very often, like, some of the richest people don't have a college degree, but they still learn.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then when you hear that, and then you're like, oh, should I go to college or should I not? Should I should I drop out of high school and then focus on my craft? Like, I just really want to also have that conversation, because I feel like, so when somebody say college is the only way out, I want to reframe it to education is the only way out. But when you say education, most people think about the schooling and the system rather than the lifelong learning. Like, how do you feel about some of the misconception or like myth? Like, like, are you are you a lifelong learner? Like, are you like, how do you schooling? I mean, obviously we all graduated high school. Patrick, you will be going into the Marines. So like, and then you were in the process of making decision of where to go. How do you feel about how did you come to figure out this is what works for me?
For me, I took a simple process. I just put four as the best options for me and how I am as a person. I knew I didn't want to get stuck with student loans, so I knew that I was not gonna just hop into college off rip. So I looked at ways of how to get my college paid for without having to do too much. So the best option for me was joining Marines because I've always wanted. There's a job as an embassy like I would get to go to Japan and different countries, and I would get paid for it while at the same time acquiring my bachelor's degree. So that would be the best option for me as a person because I think that would be fun and a very nice experience to have.
Yeah.
No, I think that's pretty much dope. I think looking back for me, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, uh, I really wasn't like taught about, the different paths, right? Like, it was like, yo, you're going to college. Um, and it wasn't forced on me, right? And when I did have other interests. Like at one point I wanted to be a producer, like because I was like rapping with my friends and like we were doing certain things. And like my aunt gave me the opportunity to kind of explore that and like let me meet a real producer and like, what it took. And I decided that wasn't for me
Yeah.
because my man was still living at home.
Yeah.
Like it was like older, and I was just like, nah. But I really didn't know about like, being a construction worker, nor did it interest me.
Yeah.
Um, or like being a pipe fitter or being a plumber. I just like during that time, I just didn't think about those as pathways for me. But um, I went to a school that was centered around going to college.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what filtered me going to college. I wish I did have the opportunity to learn about different ways to to earn money, or to um you know get a different education. But I'm super grateful that I went to college and that I had the experience that I did. But I also would have respected a different perspective during my time. um
Yeah.
so overall, yeah, I think that's what happened with me. I think, again, misconception of education concerning like alternative pathways. Even when I mention that to parents, it's kind of like, you don't think my son or daughter is good enough to go to college? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that maybe it's not the right time for them to go to college,
Mm.
but they should also explore different paths, because I know that sometimes it might be not be the right time, and that you need a lot more time to grow, so you don't waste money going to college if you're not ready.
Yeah, which is key. That's one thing we want to focus on is the wasting money. But something was like would be investing in yourself and like trying to figure out it costs money.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't cost that much money. I want to go back to a point you said you went to a school that was centered going around college. One thing
Mhm.
that come well, no pun intended, because you went to a school going around center was centered around going to college, and you're not
Right.
center college, so
Right.
pun intended. But I, but that did not mean that everybody at that school went to college.
100%.
And then were they supported when they made the decision they were not going to college?
To be honest, I'm gonna be 100% with you. I do not remember. I want to say yes, but I'm not too sure.
Oh yeah. So let me give you okay. And I also like I want to before I forget when your conversation as a counselor with your parent, like how you frame thing, like, oh, it's not that I don't want your kids to go to college, is that it's not the right time for them. And then I feel like having people understand like their pathway is unique to them, and they don't have to compete with anybody. And I think that's something Patrick understanding. He did the work, and he's happy with this decision, because when we talk to him, he's like, yeah, I'm happy with my decision. I see the financial benefit, I see the reward. And then that will get him to his goal of building generational wealth and be financially free. That works, Patrick. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something?
Yeah. I think it's very nuanced too, because I have a high Haitian population at my school.
That's my people. Like, you better come correct, you know?
And the parents, they're like, I want my son to become a lawyer, doctor, a vet. You know what I mean? And then there's a disconnect between the student and the parent, because the student's like, college is for me. Like, I wanna go into construction, or I wanna start my own business. And like, sometimes they're forced to go to community college or apply because their parents like, you gotta go. And so have those conversations, like you said, is you have to be very nuanced and like, mom, dad, like, I get you want the best for your son, and they can still do well financially being a construction worker, or going into becoming a pipe fitter or electrician, and still earn a decent living, probably better, and provide for you too. So those have been very tough conversations to have. And it's culture based.
It is culture based, because if you think about the parents wants what's best for you, and what they know of what's best and where their money's at, it's only in those fields. Like, they don't have any, like, talking about what it was, the track record. From their knowledge, they don't have any crap. You gotta think in the community, in their community, and parents like to brag about their kids. Like, oh yeah, my son is a doctor, my son is a lawyer, like, and like, what is your phone? Oh, he's a DJ. Huh? Like, it's just like, you gotta give your parent ammunition, so when they go into those rooms, they're like, yeah, my son is doing this. And if you say something that other people, no matter how big the thing you're doing is, if it doesn't have value in those rooms, you're probably like, oh yeah, he's doing that, like, But I can tell you now, if parents go today, like, yeah, my son or my daughter, yeah, he's a TikToker, they started to see value in TikTok. Like, those things. So, like, it's what they know. Like, I think it should be focused more on the same way we have exploratory workshop for students. Maybe we should have exploratory workshop for parents. So they're like, oh, like, this person is this. Like, show them where the money is at. Like, show them, like, so when the kids, like, bring it up, like, yeah, like, it's not just saying this, like, okay, let's go to explore, like, so I think that's where the parent family bring the family. I remember talking about that, it's like when we have to do policy, and then I have to convince my parents to let the student go out of state, because this is a free scholarship, like, it's free. Free money. But I want to go back to like, because you said, go back to the piece where you said, like, you went to school center, going around college and everything. I think while it's a plus, like, I know, like, in our program, we have to shift our narrative. Like, we're supporting students through the post-secondary plan, and that means, like, as long as it's legal, we will support you on that. Like, and make sure you connected to the resources, and have information to be successful. So, like, I've had students, like, who, like, towards this time, like, they're like, oh, they stopped talking to me. I'm like, what's going on? Well, I ain't going to college. So you're like, no, I still want to make sure you're good. Like, I have one of my students who's going into photography, and Like he's saying that I got excited. I'm like, bro, you got a plan. You know what you want to do. What do you mean? I'm
How
excited
much
for
money
you.
you
And
make?
then he was like, oh, it was good to hear that. I'm like, I am sorry if you felt otherwise. Like, I don't like, because at first he was so like, throughout his whole year in high school till junior year, he was like, yeah, I'm going to college. And junior year, he started finding himself. He changed his style. He's into fashion. He's into photography. He's working on his craft. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You figuring out, you finding who you are, and that's the plan. Like,
Yeah.
like find your passion, like, and then like, yeah. So we have to, because like, we want to make sure, like, we want to make sure our students are successful. We like, um, and I feel like changing the narrative, how we approach, like, that's why when I ask you, like, hey, what about the kids who weren't going to college? I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of kids who weren't going to college. What your school? Like, did they feel supported? Did they feel like the message was there?
Yeah.
Like, like Patrick, if I ask you, like, when did you know the army was for you? The Navy, the Marines, sorry, the Marines was for you.
I knew it was for me when I was sitting down in my physics class having a conversation with a couple friends, and I was hearing everybody's ideas of what they wanted to do. And I got into a debate with one of my teachers because misinformation is the greatest downfall of most people, because she was talking about how the army isn't really good and wouldn't really help you. And the whole time I was talking to her about how is college any different, because you're going to go into college as a young kid, you're going to rack up a bunch of student loans, you're going to get financial help by some people, but college is not really for everyone. You can be successful without college, because there's a lot of who's someone I can pull from. For example, Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
I did some research on him. He failed every single class up until high school, and he almost didn't graduate. And now he's a very rich and successful man. It goes to show you that education is good, but sometimes getting a higher education as a college isn't the right path for everyone. I'm not saying college is a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a time and place for everything. Hopping
Yeah.
into high school, hopping out of high school straight into college could be stressful for most kids, especially when you have to worry about um the location, national necessities, if it's on campus, off campus, payments, you got to pay for textbooks, computer, also your time there, you have to pay for that too, and you have to pay for your education. So it's all about how you put yourself into a position to benefit yourself in how you proceed to go forward with that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm really happy you made that, you pull from that, because I wanted to, which bring us back to our thing, like, it's just like schooling versus lifelong learning. Elon Musk didn't do well in schooling, but he's committed to lifelong learning. That doesn't, Elon is reading, Elon is getting the information. He's just not getting it in the context of the schooling. He's not going to school. So this is where I want to make sure, like, so understanding that you still have to learn to get what you want. You go into the Marines, you have to learn how to be a Marine. You have
Yeah.
to learn everything that comes being around a Marine. And the Marine gonna teach, give you like books learning like, to be whatever you want to be. So
Mhm.
you have to choose whether you want to do in a schooling, or like, on your own, or to a program that's directly for that. So that's the thing. And that's why when somebody say I don't like school,
Mhm.
my thing is, do you not like the schooling system, or or you don't want to learn, like, or if you want, if you have something very specific you only want to learn, that's that's education. You have to educate yourself. So changing, yeah, education is really the only way out, because whether you do it in a schooling or like on your own, you still have to learn. You still
Yeah.
have to read book. You still have to do those things to make sure you have the information to move accordingly,
Yeah.
right? All right. Um, that was it for this segment. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Yes.
You are listening to the Straight Out of BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari. Welcome to our new segment, the Student Voice Report with Patrick. Patrick, tell us about the report you've been working on.
So the report I've been working on recently is seeing how high school students will be feeling after graduating high school and how it will affect them in the long run. So how I've implemented my way into finding this out is by doing certain Google forms to see the responses of each student.
Mhm.
Awesome. And what are some of the responses you have gotten so far?
So the first question on the form was how do you feel about graduating high school? And the responses I was getting was very mixed. Most students were saying they were scared, and some was ready, but most answers was they were unprepared. For example, I had a student respond saying that they were nervous because they were unsure of how high school be after because they didn't have a teacher to guide or assist them in what they were doing. So I think that most kids are feeling nervous and unsure because they don't have assistance or guidance to see where they will go or any platform placed in front of them to walk on.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely understand that piece. It can definitely be scary because um like high school is a long time, but and then it's also provides you like a structure, and now you need to be on your own and figure out like your time management and do a bunch of stuff. So I can definitely feel the depending on where the student are going, there are resources for them.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're going to college, you they definitely need to tap into the community. But if they're not going to college or they go into a certificate program or work, they definitely need to tap into the community. But there's also like they also need to be like work on their time management. It's a practice. I'm still practicing my time management, so I can definitely feel like the pressure, the anxiety, and then doing it. But yeah. What are some of the other questions you're working on?
Another question that really stuck out to me when I asked, and I was getting responses to was, how do kids feel about how school prepared them for the outside world and after college?
Mm-hmm.
And the questions and responses that I got from that was very straightforward. Some kids were saying that they felt like unprepared, and then we had others saying they were prepared and good to go. It's just that they wish that they had more life lessons taught to them as in taxes and other things, but I disagree with that because me as a student at the school, I got help from Miss Rogers within financial aid, and we had other resources like step and college course. We had many opportunities for kids to help push them forward, but they didn't take such opportunities. That's why I think that it's unfair for them to say statements like that when we had resources opportunities that helped them.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, as a saying that still like information doesn't mean action. But also like, sometimes when very often when like the information is presented to us in a moment, we're not in a headspace or capacity to act upon it. But now there's like all those we the transition, the pressure now like we wish we I know yeah, like taxes is important, financial like learning to manage your budget, like understanding your budget, your finance, and do your taxes is very important. I remember it was very scary for me to do when I started working and I had to do taxes. I was very scared to do it, but thank God I found out like you can go to Bunker Hill and get your taxes done as a student. You don't have to go there, and they have students who do the work, who they trained to do the taxes. And if you make under 50,000, you can get it done for free. So it's definitely like yeah, I definitely understand that piece. But like it's also like now that you need that, like how do you what do you do
Get
about
it.
to
Yeah.
make sure you don't spend like a lot of time feeling like, oh, you wish you had know. Okay, now you go through wish you had know. Yeah. Um, yeah, school, we need to find a way to, like, I know you mentioned Miss Rogers, but I think like we need to find a way for school and a broader sense to adapt those things, and
Yeah.
so everybody could, and not just students from Miss Rogers class to get it.
Yeah, and also like just being a counselor in the school too. I know that sometimes students don't always get the opportunity to take certain classes.
Yeah.
Whether it could be due to something in their IEP or like they need certain classes to graduate. So that student, or just plain devil's advocate, may have not gotten the opportunity to take
Yeah.
like a financial literacy class because of that. But also to your point, Patrick, those classes are there.
Yeah.
But and also like what Rudy was saying is just like, so what do we do about it now
Yeah.
that you're asking, like you're asking for this type of things? Like how can the school or how can the student individually go out and like learn about taxes, or are there different programs to learn how to file your taxes or financial literacy stuff? So that's definitely something to think about, or even for us to be challenged with as a podcast, to be like, is there certain services that we can put together to help provide that service for students that are in need? So it's very important. I really love like the work that you're doing as far as like getting the feedback from students, because that's something that I feel like that's one of our goals, is to hear from students and have a student voice. So
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, Patrick, what about you? How do you feel? What, like, like you're a student too.
Well, my approach was different from other students because I think it's what's best for me as a person. I'm gonna join the Marines after I graduate, because I think they have the more opportunities and resources that I would need, because
mm,
that would best represent me, because I was looking at my future and I want to be secure. So I think joining the Marines is the best option for me, because they have resources that most people wouldn't get as a normal person. Like, I will get my college paid for. I'm going to do a job that I would like and expand in, and I'm also doing it with my best friend. So I really think that the opportunities I'm going to get from here to the long run is going to be very good, because coming out the Marines, I could be retired by the time I am 30, and know that I'm secure with my family or such. So that's why I think that's the best option for me.
I like
okay.
when you say that best option for me, things that work for me. So you've done the work, you identify, like, and we are in May, and like by now, most students should have make a decision on what to do after college. And I know there's always some student who are still trying to figure that out because plan A or B did not work out. But I like, it's also like understanding, this is what works for me may not work for anybody else, like, and doing the work and identify like what you like, what do you want to do, and then because you also say you're doing something that you're gonna be doing something that you're happy about, like, so having that fulfilling passion. So yeah, so any student out there, like, no matter what your plan, your post-secondary plan is, we wish you the best. It's tough out there, but we know you can handle it. And the plan is generational wealth. So no matter
Yep.
where you go, this is generational wealth is the goal. Not college, not work, not the army, not a certificate, nothing. Because if you hear what you say, Patrick, you want to make sure you are secure for you are secure with you and your family. So
Yep.
that's your goal. And then using the army, is it the army or the navy?
Um, the Marines,
The Marines.
yeah, they're different
Yeah,
branches.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. The Marines. Um, as a step towards your goal. So want to really make that clarification, because there's also added pressure, like, yeah, I know college, but our path are different. The more we embrace and doing the work and figure that out, the better we'll be. Hey, I studied biology in college. I'm not in education, so
Same. I
same.
mean, I didn't study biology, but
You were in finance, right, Jamari?
nah, I did
Right?
sociology,
Oh,
anthropology,
psychology. Yeah,
and
but you was working finance
government.
after that.
Yeah, I was working in finance,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
no, there no more.
Yeah. So we're trying different things. The goal is to try until we figure it out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the report, Patrick. Good job. Can't wait to hear more. We're gonna have you. Patrick is interning with us all month, so it's been really a pleasure working for me with him and getting to know him. And yeah, excited to hear more.
Yeah, most definitely.
You are listening to the Straight Outta BPS podcast with Rudy and Jamari.
We are back with our final thoughts. We're just gonna check in about what we have talked about during these last three segments. Fellas, do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
Me, my final thoughts is like how there's a lot of public information out here about the topics we speak of, and how misinformation and how it's guaranteed to not reach families is really affecting people in the long run, because some people are not really in tune to news or information about BPS as a whole. So it's really sad to see that there's information here but some people can't get it. So that's one thing that really confined with me.
Yeah, I think it's understanding. It's we all need to be lifelong learners.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever like interests us, like like let's say social media is big right now. I know a lot of students into social media, but you need to learn how to maneuver to social media and how to capitalize on social media and not just be like not just rely on viral like things to make it happen, like like to sustain it, to learn, like like learning about like and your student report, like some student which they know about taxes and financial, but yeah, you have to learn that because those are like your life, like things that you have to do in your life. So you have to like how to like improve your budgeting, improve your time management. So we all need to be dedicated to be lifelong learner. And maybe schooling is not for you, and it's okay. But we all need to be dedicated to lifelong learning.
100%. I think for me too, what struck me most about our conversation today is the receivership aspect of things. Like just the just thinking about how like the receivership, I know it's been thrown around, but like it should honestly be a partnership type of thing. If it's gonna happen, I think that's one of the most important things I've took out as well. And then also the misconception of education within within our schools now. I know I'm working in the school, but I'm no longer working with like like 11th and 12th graders. I'm with 10th graders and 9th graders right now. Um, I would just want to hear like more from students about their perspective of like the misconception of education now. I know about it when I was back in high school,
Mm-hmm.
but I would love to hear more students talk about, you know, what their misconceptions are, and like maybe we can start breaking those down.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? So just now that we're like, we put it out there, we started talking about it. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. I love the conversation, and I love having Patrick here. It's been
Yeah.
great. So I look forward to continuing these conversations for the next month.
Yeah.
And this is Straight Out of BPS.
Podcast.
All right, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.